electronic music podcast.
What's up?
Woo! Coming in hot.
Is it? Oh yeah. Is it recording or?
It is.
Oh, okay.
We're live.
What up?
This is the Voice of Electronic Music, episode 13. What's up, everybody? With Danny Delorean of Ritual and Fyre'd
And
TurboDrive, right? Danny Delorean is a friend of mine for a long time, and he's been a staple of a DJ here in San Francisco. You know, ranging across a bunch of different genres, and all around good dude. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Yeah.
Yeah?
I wouldn't say very well known in the broad scheme, but definitely in the underground world, I'm pretty known, I would say.
Yeah, totally. Well, you got a bunch of different aliases too, so it's like, you know, you gotta have one for every different genre.
Totally.
Yeah.
For all the underground genres, because there's not enough to sustain with one.
Yeah, right. So yeah, man, I wanted to talk to you about a couple things. Your new party, TurboDrive. Actually, why don't we start with? Well,
let me clarify. Technically, TurboDrive isn't mine.
Yes, yeah. I know. Sorry. It's a partnership. Right?
Yeah. Well, it was started by DJ Devin, and I'm kind of like a later add-on to help promo and stuff, and I kind of just went running with it. So some people think that I'm a lot more involved than I am,
sure.
But I am heavily involved, but I just don't do the bookings for it.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense. I mean,
so shout out to Devin.
What's up, dude?
not gonna steal your shine, brother.
I mean, there's so much stuff to do to throw a successful party.
Yeah.
I mean, like trying to do one by yourself would be almost impossible, I think. You know, I mean, even like I threw Breathe with Jason Battle, and that was hard even for a Monday night small venue, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then you of course did like Ritual, and Ritual was like fucking massive, you know.
Took a while to get there for sure.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, and it started small, but that was a blast. There's so many good memories there.
I mean, you just really have to believe in yourself and spend money. You know, that first year you're just kind of like fishing and hoping to pull in people, but you're spending money to do so. It's like, yeah, it's a gamble. You may spend that first year spending thousands and thousands of dollars and get nowhere,
right?
Or it could blow up and be the next big thing. But you know, the music industry is a gamble.
Yeah, it's kind of a catch-22, right? I mean, you gotta invest stuff to get people to come in, you know what I mean? But then you kind of gotta also have a day job or something so you can get the money. And
the people with money aren't always the ones who want to take a gamble on the arts.
Right.
You know, they're gonna go with the sure thing for the most part,
that's a good
or
point.
something that's gonna build them substantial money. Because even in the music industry, you could put all this money in and make a profit, but it could not be that much. Whereas the people who are a little bit smarter with their money are like, well, yeah, it's a gamble, but even the payoff isn't really the greatest. So you got to really love this to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like it reminds me of the owner of DNA Lounge, right? I mean, he was like I kind of read his like wiki or whatever. Jamie, yeah, and he was like a software coder for the early Microsoft stuff, and then opened up DNA Lounge, and I'm assuming just because he fucking loves music and you know, I mean, and they do metal and fucking deathcore and synthwave and even EDM stuff like super ravey.
Yeah, I mean, that place and Cat Club are two of the last, in my opinion, kind of counterculture hubs for music. Cat Club doesn't really do live music, but they still kind of push the goth and the sort of underground sound of that side. F8 still does too, but as far as live music goes, aside from DNA Lounge, I don't really know too many other venues that are pushing that sort of avant-garde. Aside from the smaller ones, you've got like like Bottom of the Hill and Brick and Mortar and what's that one that's in the Richmond district, Neck of the Woods? I don't think it's. Is that the name of it now? I know that.
Yeah.
But it used to be called something else.
Rocket Room.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, they're places like that, or the one in the Mission, I think it's called the Cathedral. They're smaller and they're still kind of pushing up and coming music, but there's no bigger venues because they're all being bought up by like Golden Voice and Live Nation and these corporate entities. And that's where Jamie comes in, is he's kind of like always been the owner of DNA Lounge. His name's Jamie. He's been really vocal about the sort of homogenization and hostile takeover of these venues that are pushing avant-garde music, which is why I like doing stuff at DNA Lounge. The staff can be a little rough around the edges, because they all come from like punk, metal, goth, industrial backgrounds, and they do have to cater to the mainstream a little bit, and you can just tell that it's kind of like a knife in their side. So, they can be a little bit
jaded at times.
Yeah, to put it lightly. But it comes from a good place, which is why I fuck with those guys, because even though they might be a little mean on the surface, it's coming from a place of love of their scene and their music, and the people that they're kind of mean to, in my interpretation, is they're looking at these people as the same type of person that probably bullied them in high school.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey, fuck this person, with their like gleaming gloss, lip gloss that's like blinding me, and is
an ironed polo shirt.
Yeah, and is like kind of being a dick to me. So I'm gonna be a super dick back. But going back to Jamie, he's been like really publicly vocal about kind of the shady side of the music industry, which is why I really enjoy doing stuff there, because it's something that we need to save here in San Francisco, is places like that.
Especially with all the tech stuff, and I mean, like Mezzanine's closing down, and
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I did know that. I forgot.
Yeah.
So many things just keep coming down the pipeline to the closing that you forget about.
Right.
About it after a while. But
and there was a scare that DNA was going to close too, and I'm thankfully.
I mean, it's always DNA's been kind of dangling on a string since its inception, as far as I know, but. Jamie, the owner, I could be wrong on some of this, so forgive me if anyone watching this is saying that I'm saying false things. But so I guess he was one of the founders of Netscape, and he sold it and made a ton of money, and then he bought the nightclub from Rob Schneider, the actor. And
really?
Yeah,
Rob Schneider owned it.
Rob Schneider used to own the venue, and ironically, Rob Schneider and Prince were like really good friends, which is why Prince, before he did like his 5-night in a row show there a few years ago, Prince used to go there like for after parties and stuff just to hang out. Like if he was playing somewhere in California, he would come down to DNA Lounge and just hang out there after hours with like Rob Schneider and like tons of chicks and whatever. But so after Rob Schneider had already sold it, he still had love for DNA Lounge and did like a 5-night show that sold out in like an hour, and I think tickets were like $1,000 or something.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's some absurd price for the tickets, and they still sold out because DNA Lounge is like a 700 person venue, and Prince is selling out like stadiums.
Yeah. It's like the epitome of intimate for Prince.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, to Prince's credit, he's probably one of the biggest pop stars of all time, but shows his love of music where he's willing to kind of give back to his roots in a way. And one thing that's cool about Jamie and DNA Lounge is that he's trying to keep that sort of thing alive. Even though it's like a big major venue, it still has its heart in like sort of the underground and grassroots.
Right. Yeah, I remember going there. I think it was one of it. So before I really got started in the scene here in San Francisco, the music scene, I was like dating this chick in Berkeley. I was kind of living in Oakland, and she had friends. Her like high school friends and college friends were kind of into the like death metal type stuff, and they would do these. They did like there was some show there called, or a weekly called like Meet, where they would
Devin, the guy who started TurboDrive, that's his thing.
Is it really?
Yeah, he started Meet with I believe he started it with John Adams, who is DJ Netic, who's also one of the TurboDrive resident DJs. I'm pretty sure that was their thing together, and maybe one other person. But yeah, anyways, go on.
It was sick. I mean, I was like,
oh, you went to it?
Yeah, because I was like a music producer, but I really like hadn't even started kind of DJing per se. But like she knew that I was into music, so she's like, "Oh, come to this thing," and I was blown away because I had like kind of never really been to DNA, and I'd never really listened to. I think it was like industrial techno, and it was like super dark, and there's like all these, everyone's wearing like their leather and black bell bottoms and like
cyber goth
and they were grilling meat out front, and they would chop it up and they'd bring it to the bar with like little toothpicks.
That's funny.
I was like, this is
that's pretty clever.
This is sick. Yeah, and it wasn't even my particular genre, but like I truly believe when you do something well, it kind of transcends the genre.
Yeah,
totally. You can still have a good time.
I mean, especially a party called Meat in San Francisco, in like the Folsom district, you immediately think like, oh, this is like a gay bondage party or something.
Yeah,
so which is fine, but if you're like a straight white dude who's like 21 and you grew up in the East Bay, it may just not really be your thing.
Right.
But yeah, I never got a chance to make it to Meat. I actually I didn't even go to Death Guild for the first time until like maybe a few years ago. And it's surprising how welcoming the goth and industrial community is to people, because I would go in there in like a hoodie and a beanie, come from a hip hop background, and I would just kind of be in the corner bobbing my head. Nobody was giving me dirty looks. Everybody's dancing, doing their own thing, and there's all walks of life in there.
Right.
So yeah, that's a great thing about DNA Lounge. I mean, Death Guild is every Monday, and it's been going on for like 25 years.
Holy
and
shit!
It's 18 and up. Yeah, so even on their slow nights, I'm sure they still probably get at least 100 people in there every week.
Right. I mean, that's a long time to throw a party.
Yeah.
I just met through a friend, DJ Time.
Doug, yeah.
Yeah, Doug.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and we were talking about Booty and all that. I'm probably gonna have him on the show.
Oh, cool. Yeah. He's a buddy of mine too.
They've been going for like something like 15 years. It's
Yeah,
just, like,
Booty,
insane.
and then Nathan, his
Yeah.
partner, N-Type,
Yep.
is their like collective, but
Yeah.
I mean, not N-Type, N-Time.
In time. Yeah. I mean, that's a fucking long time to do anything, let alone a party and successfully, you know.
Booty's is it's a lot easier for a party like Booty to go for that long because it's top 40, but it's still creative enough to draw the non-top 40 crowd. For people that don't know, it's a mashup party. So they're basically taking, 2 pop songs and taking the beat of one and the lyrics of another. That's a crude example. I mean, they do a lot more than that, but they're basically smushing together a bunch of different songs. So there's this really creative aspect to it that draws in people who are just into it for the creative side that may not really like mainstream music, but then it also brings out the mainstream music people. So it's this kind of blend of
Pop culture mashup.
Yeah, like super top 40 people and the people that don't really like top 40. So it's really beautiful that you can kind of bring those people together who normally would kind of like be fighting each other,
and they'd mix like a Madonna a cappella vocal with a Prince or some or
Lady
like
Gaga,
Lady Gaga,
yeah.
And then they do their kind of classic promo flyers, which is like the photoshopped image with like one of the one half is Madonna and the other half is whoever else,
Drake or whatever. Yeah, it's like a face smush, but it's not like the new ones where they overlay them on top of each other, but it's like split down the middle, one face or another.
Yeah,
their flyers are amazing. Like the symmetry and the way they put them together.
Someone's been doing so many of those.
Yeah,
just gigabytes
seriously.
on their hard drive. Like,
I mean, and their videos are really amazing too. It's just like 6 hours of movie footage of people dancing and just like really clever stuff. They put a lot of time and effort into it.
Yeah.
And they expanded into like Japan and LA.
Right,
So,
that's what he was saying. Yeah. This strip right here, this is 11th, right? This is like, I feel like this is kind of iconic. It's very iconic for the music scene in San Francisco.
Oh, totally.
And San Francisco definitely holds it down worldwide for music culture and counterculture in general. And like this, I mean, and I say that because there's so, I mean, if you're not familiar with this strip of San Francisco, if you're not from here or whatever, there's, multiple nightclubs of multiple different genres. You've got, Halcyon here, you've got Cali 11, which is kind of like a Latin type bar. We're, of course, at Halcyon like tech house, deep house, techno, trance. And then, next door there's Bergerac and Audio. Audio's upstairs. Audio's the kind of similar to Halcyon a little bit, but oddly enough, there's not a whole lot of competition.
I think Audio is probably like younger, more like your sorority frat kind of crowd, whereas this place draws slightly older and a little darker and heavier.
Right.
House,
a
like
little more refined.
Yeah. Like I would say, I'm probably gonna get shot in the face for saying this by somebody, some angry person, but I feel like people who are really into house music and rave culture come here, whereas the people that are into it but are just kind of more into
casual.
They're more like fair weather fans, I guess, if that's the proper term, would go to Audio.
Sure.
Whereas people that are just like really people that are here to hear the artists come to Halcyon. People that want to go to a club that they know is gonna have good music and be cracking, go to Audio. So people go to Audio for the club. People come to Halcyon for the music.
Yeah. And then of course you've got Butter, which is just epic. I mean, it's this fucking
white trash themed
bar with like a RV that's cut in half, put in the middle, and you can buy
tater tots
and hot dogs. And there's you can fucking get 32 ounce of High Life in a paper bag. Like they go the full extent to like really make it trashy.
Yeah.
And that I fucking love that place. That's just a good time.
And then Buzzworks and DNA Lounge.
DNA.
And then there's the Eagle around the corner.
And what's the place with the dinner and the rock? It's like right there. Fucking, why am I blanking on the name?
a dinner spot?
Well, no, it's the club that do rock stuff, like rock, and you can.
Slims. Yeah.
Slims. Thank you. Yeah.
And then there's that other bar that's around the corner. I want to say it's like Lone Star.
Right.
Is it Lone Star?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's another one around the corner there. I mean, this is the Folsom district, so it's like the Leather Daddy district.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's like a lot of good gay bars around here. Oasis, up the street, and then what's the one on 9th? The Stud.
Right. And like, F8's just around the corner.
Yeah. So yeah, this district is this is ground zero right now for the cool party kids. I mean, because you've got your douche club neighborhoods. I'm not gonna,
oust anybody.
I'm not gonna oust anybody, but we all know those neighborhoods that the true San Francisco. Even if you don't live here, I still consider you a true San Franciscan if you're like aware of this neighborhood being kind of a hub to come party,
right?
Versus like the Marina. I'll talk shit about the Marina because that's probably the one everybody fucking hates. But
right.
I won't talk shit about the other districts. But definitely the Marina could kiss my ass.
They're kind of the punching bag.
For sure.
Of San Francisco. Arguably, though, one of the nicer parts of San Francisco, but that's probably why they're the punching bag because it's kind of they attract those people. I've had some fun times in the Arena, but
I mean, there's some cool bars there. But it's like if you want to get into a fight with some guy because you fucking accidentally talked to his girlfriend when you just asked her like the time or something, then like that's
perfect.
Where you want to go.
Right. Ideal.
Yeah.
That's good shit. Yeah, I was remember. So I brought up the whole meat thing because I remember DNA Lounge had they had screens up with like webcams, and I guess they stream like every night. They stream their and you can just walk up and
at meat.
Well, I mean, it was at meat, so I mean that was like 2007 or 2008. So I mean they've been doing it for a while.
I don't think meat exists anymore.
No, I don't think it does. No, but I just mean at DNA Lounge.
They
have the streaming set up and just computers and stuff, and very kind of appropriate, I guess, for the considering Jamie is tech
and San Francisco's
original.
a tech hub for sure.
Right.
I mean, GDC week is always fun at DNA Lounge. They have a 8-bit SF, which is like a chiptune party. They're going to do something there on Tuesday during GDC. Yes, I mean, DNA Lounge is always kind of open to these experimental things and see if they take off. Obviously, if they don't take off, they got to pull the plug because they'll be losing money on it, but they at least give it a chance.
Right.
Whereas other places, especially of that size, it's like, are you fucking kidding me? No way. They won't even answer your email.
No.
know?
And it's a total catch-22. It's like they want to see that you have attendees, guaranteed attendees, and all this stuff. And it's like, well, okay, where do you get started? You know what I mean? And I guess you solved that with Ritual, right? You started to at Ritual at Anu, and that
now
was like
OMG.
Oh, it's right. Yeah, it switched. And that was like a tiny little place. And of course, everyone reminisces back on the days of Ritual at Anu because it's kind of get the little hipster side of thing. I was there when it was at Anu.
Well, there's that too, but I mean, people just love being crammed into a boiling hot tiny place. Sorry for popping the mic, everybody. But yeah, I mean, the place was small. It was like maybe if you fit 100 people in there, you could get away with it. But anything more than that was just like you were just crammed in there, and it was uncomfortable. I personally fucking hated that place. And
really?
I've told people this all the time, and people get upset at me. They're like, "How could you hate that place? This is where it all started." And I was like, "You guys don't understand. It's like." I got into 3 fistfights out front with fucking drug dealers and shit who were either trying to break into my car, were aggressively grabbing women in a super rapey manner, and I had to step in and break it up, or people trying to steal shit, people stealing purses. It's that was a fucking grimy neighborhood, and I come from East Oakland, so it's I'm not.
Get some authority there.
Yeah, it's when I say grimy, it was fucking hood.
Yeah.
And also coming from East Oakland, I'm not afraid to fucking put my foot in someone's ass when I have to either. So I was just getting into shit and it was cool. People who were under 21 were able to sneak in pretty easy, and people love that shit. And it was a sweat box, and the music was good, but the sound system sucked. Speakers were fucking getting blown all the time. Power was just going out. The DJ booth was you only had this much room. Did you ever DJ there?
No, not yeah.
The DJ booth, there was only this much room between the booth and the wall.
God forbid you show up with a controller or something.
It was ridiculous. But people love it just because it was it was raw, right. And it was intense, and we were literally just about the music. We weren't making any money. It was a free party.
Yeah.
I think they maybe gave us 15% of the bar, but if you can only fit 80 people in there, and we're catering to stoners who don't really drink that much anyways,
right.
it's yeah, we'd be lucky if we left there with like $100, and like we'd pay our DJs like $50. So the people didn't understand how much it sucked for us, but yeah, the vibes were good.
But again, you do it because you love the music and you want to bring people together and you want to do this thing that doesn't really exist in the fashion that you think it should.
Yeah, we still got to pay the water bill and electricity though. You know? So it's like when you spend all this time and effort and money into it, it's like, sure, we don't need this huge payoff, but when that time could be going to an actual job and you're putting that into your creative art, you still got to live and survive, because if you can't live and survive, then you can't make this party happen.
Your favorite party is going to end.
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
It's like, right. So how was that? This is something I was always kind of curious. How was that transition from Anu to Temple? Like, how did you approach that?
It came with mixed reviews for sure, because Temple's always kind of been known as this sort of trendy commercial sort of place, way more now than it was before. Before it was the remodel. Yeah, before the God, I want to say they probably put like $2 million into the remodel of that place, which was smart, because now it's like a transportation hub of San Francisco with the Salesforce and the
corporate things and
the not Transamerica, the like subway system that's in there now. What's it called?
the light rail shit.
Yeah, like all that stuff. So it's smart that he kept that place instead of selling it. But people were like, how are you going to go from this grimy sort of hippie vibe underground spot to this trendy nightclub? And we're like, look, this place has roots and deep house music, and yeah, sure, they started introducing hip hop on their Fridays and Saturdays to survive, which you need to in a city like this, unfortunately. But we made it a point. We're like, look, we're going to be in the basement of their party, so this is going to feel underground. We're going to have
literally was underground.
Yeah, it was. You had to go down. There's no windows. It was grimy in there. It was dark. So
the catacombs.
Yeah, the catacombs. And so the transition was. Some people were like, fuck this, I'm not going, and they just flat out boycotted our party just for moving. And it's like, well, we needed to grow, we needed to do something, we needed to book more artists, because we couldn't just keep recycling our local DJs. We wanted headliners from London and from Japan and what have you. But yeah, I mean, it still kind of did come with some of that mainstream mentality, but at the same time, we got an extra promo push from the venue as well, because Temple has a broader reach. They have, email blasts. They have pillar promos, the posters that you put up around the Mission District and here on 11th and stuff. So that was what we couldn't really afford. That was already in their budget naturally, and they had foot traffic and stuff. Nobody wanted to go to 6th Street in the hood to party. Some people did, but yeah, they didn't realize how big we were going to be when we first moved to Temple. So they only hired one bouncer and one bartender. And we ended up having like 300 or 400 people that first night.
Holy shit.
Yeah, when we moved from Anu, we went from being, in just 1 week, we went from being maybe a 120 person party to having like 3 times that amount. Yeah. So they were overwhelmed. They had to call in some emergency bartenders and bouncers and stuff, and then it just blew up from there.
Yeah.
We started getting like 500 to 600 people every week, and sometimes it would be 700. And then I think on one of our Halloween nights, we had like 900 people. It was like fucking crazy.
You have to open the upstairs.
Yeah,
and
we
take
had to
over the whole.
Yeah, exactly.
Whole thing, yeah.
And then it crumbled, and it's like nowhere now.
I know.
Then we were like having trouble. Like towards the end, we were having trouble even bringing out like 200 people. But that's just the nature of music.
That was literally the rise and the fall of dubstep.
Yeah, totally.
Not like it's completely gone, but there's a graph floating around out there about electronic music, and you can see all these things, drum and bass and techno and house, and literally dubstep just does one of these, and then right back down.
It's the Beatport sales graph of 2014, I think.
Yeah.
So it goes from like, I think 2009 to 2014, and you see it spike up until like 2013, and then it just goes whoosh and just like drops off
through the floor.
It's like, yep, we experienced that.
Dude, before the remodel, man, that I have so many good memories of that place. Just wild nights, wild
Dude, people
experiences.
Were fucking, like literally fucking.
Yeah.
In like not even like in the corner.
I saw
just
some
like
chick getting eaten out. Like,
yeah, that's awesome. I love
it was
I love
great.
fucking wild shit like
you
that.
walked down there, you were like, I am in another world right now.
Yeah.
And not to mention, it was dubstep, which was a very new genre, a very new sound entirely, with like the bass sounds and stuff. And so then you go downstairs and it's very dark and there's neon paint and shit everywhere, and like you see shit like that. And
Yeah.
you might be on something, and then you're hearing this music, and it's just like another world.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, dubstep had already kind of made a splash here in San Francisco. I mean, it had already made a splash in like London in like 05 and 06. But between like 06 and 09, there were other people doing it, like Eva Ultraviolet, who does Trap City now. She was one of the people doing dubstep pretty big out here. Mal from Mal Label, Camp Question Mark. Grime City with Sam Supa and them, and then there was like Narco Hertz and Surefire Party. So there was a lot of dubstep stuff happening before us, but we were the only ones who turned it into a weekly because we were like, this is blowing up. It needs to be more reoccurring.
Right.
Those cats were doing monthlies, and they were only kind of booking the like really deep sort of like heady underground stuff. Where we were like, you know what, we're gonna go into the more mainstream stuff as well. We're going to be welcoming of everyone. You know, we're going to get like your Skrillex type sound, which people were calling bro step. They're calling it rhythm now.
That's what has turned into rhythm?
Debatable. I mean, the new incarnation of bro step to me is rhythm, but the sound is a little bit different. You know, rhythm is a little bit more repetitive. It's just like,
Right.
or dubstep was just like chainsaws and shit. But I mean, we welcomed all that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
What rhythm was then, we called it swamp. But yeah, or some people call it like crocodile growler music, whatever.
The fucking amount of subgenres of electronic music.
But we welcomed it all. You know, we had your reggae style stuff, so we'd have like these dreadies come through. We'd have like your glitchy stuff, and the hippies would like that. We'd have your Flux Pavilion Skrillex stuff, and then, you know, the high heels would come out. The girls with high heels would come out for that stuff. Had your hip hop heads. Yeah, it was really diverse. We'd have b-boy circles and stuff. But yeah, it was a beautiful thing that we had going for a while, but then it just all kind of crumbled.
Yeah, I remember like seeing videos and photos of that booth in the catacombs, and it was just like, when you think of like the New York music scene, or San Francisco, or like, you know, like just the grimiest, like the stickers up, and it's just like a hole, like you just see the DJ in, and like not many lights, and just like,
yeah.
I remember I watched some old like I think it was a drum and bass documentary from, I think it might have been New York, and like for whatever reason the catacomb DJ booth just like, that's what it screamed to me, was like that.
Yeah, man, it was wild.
So
I mean, we had to kick people out of that booth so many times because it would just get too rowdy in there.
Yeah.
Like the place would be packed and the DJ booth would be packed, and the DJ couldn't even spin because it was just like the DJ booth. I mean, it was a pretty big DJ booth, but it was like he was getting squashed in there and people were like knocking shit over. But yeah, it was fucking mayhem. It was awesome, but it was controlled mayhem. Like there were never really any fights. I think so. We were a weekly for a little over 3 years, and then we turned into a monthly for like 6 months. In that whole time, what is that? 3 years, let's say 200 shows, we only saw maybe 1 or 2 fights, and even those fights were quick. It was like people get into a scuffle and immediately it was broken up. It was like old school rave vibes, you know, like people make fun of the whole Plur thing, but it's like at the root of it all, that's what you want in a party,
right?
You know,
right. That's why you know, San Francisco, I think, was so welcoming of the electronic music kind of takeover. Because it was, you know, in like 2000, 2001, 2002, it was still very top 40, you know, hip hop and that sort of thing, and there was just endless fights every night.
Yeah.
You know? And then house started taking over, dubstep, all this stuff, and it was like, I think all the club owners were kind of, you know, unanimously like, oh, geez, this is.
But I mean,
refreshing.
that's what happens when a company like Clear Channel comes in and just takes over the entire radio market, and now no longer are the radio jocks choosing the music or even the music director of the radio station anymore. It's like, you have these record labels who are in your side pocket that are feeding you this music, and you're playing it 20 times a day. Right. And it's like you're no longer giving people a voice for themselves. You're controlling them and telling them what to do. Yeah. And people are going to act out when you do that. And that's when in the early 2000s, when Clear Channel bought up all of the radio media and started homogenizing the whole market and cheapening it and putting all this bubblegum pop and crap, even in the hip hop world, people are going to revolt against that. They might not even know why they're revolting, but you're going to have this like built up angst because you're not really an individual anymore.
It's like I mean, even though it's music and it might there's some level of authenticity to it, it kind of just feels like one big advertisement. A lot of this stuff.
Totally. I mean, remember when like Busta Rhymes was making songs like "Pass Me the Crevassier"?
Oh yeah.
You know,
yeah.
it's like the whole song is basically just a fucking commercial.
Right. Or like E40 talking about Hennessy or whatever, and it's like
E40. I have a sweet spot for him,
sure,
so I could never like say anything bad about him. Not that I'm saying anything bad about Busta Rhymes. I love him too, but it's like, everybody's got to hustle. Nas is like the face of Hennessy now. So it's like, but in the music, it's like when you turn the music into a commercial, it's like we're fucking sick of being sold shit all the time. Now we have to hear it in our arts. It's like...
Right. I think, what was it that, I think I heard you say that on, I read the interview you had with Dark Beauty Magazine. People are just tired of being advertised to constantly.
All the time, everywhere you look.
Transformers, and it's like these product placements.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I get what you're doing, and I know you just made millions of dollars off that, and I know that's how marketing works, but like, it's just, it reaches a point of, it's just too much. You know what I mean? Like, sure, throw up some billboards, an ad before my YouTube video. But like, that's why I will, however big this podcast gets, however long it goes, I refuse to ever put ads in the middle. Cut the conversation.
Famous last words. Some troll 6 years from now is going to come back into the archive and be like, "See, motherfucker,
right? Yeah,
scumbag."
That being said, I want to thank our sponsor.
What are we drinking here?
Yeah, right. Topo Chico.
Man, it just becomes suffocating. I mean, all of our favorite baseball stadiums are now named after fucking corporations. It's like, why do I need to go to Nissan Stadium when it used to be called like McDougal's or whatever? Like your whole childhood is now being turned into ads, and it fucking sucks. I mean, I get it. Money makes the world go round, and we're a capitalist society, but it's like it gets to a point of exhaustion and suffocation, and you're just like, and then you start tuning important things out because you're just like, you just have blinders on everything, and you don't want to even talk to people anymore. It's like you just start to shut down. That's why people are we're becoming such an introverted society with delivery everything. People don't even want to go out to the grocery store anymore. They just want to stay home and not be bothered by shit.
We're just gonna end up like, what was that movie where everyone's just in like those rolly carts and they're fat and they have like a tube in their mouth?
I don't know. That sounds amazing.
It was some cartoony like Pixar thing, but we're headed that direction.
Oh man, we're already gonna might as well just be in those Matrix pods and just
just tap into some simulated reality. So this might be a good segue. So I wanted to talk to you about Fyre'd. I might be the most excited person about this party.
That's awesome. Pre-sales are doing good, man. I was surprised.
Dude, it's fucking, I mean, talk about a great idea for a party. It's one of those things where it like you hear a song and you're like, oh, of course, like duh, that's a great idea. That's how I felt when I and I was actually not really surprised when I saw the thing, and then I was like, oh, hosted by Danny Delorean.
I know. I'm pretty notorious with like being kind of a troll, I guess, for lack of a better word, online. I just joke around about shit all the time. But yeah, man, I wish I could take full credit for the idea, but there have been other spoof events about Fyre that have popped up. It's just none of them.
Well, so explain what the party is for people who might not know.
The original Fyre'd. So if you don't know what Fyre'd is, talking to you people, is
what happened to my thing?
Hit that X at the top. I think that was like maybe a
anyway,
pop-up.
Keep going. Yeah.
So if you haven't heard of Fyre Festival, it's this huge festival that was supposed to take place in the Bahamas, and the scammer got venture capitalists to put up millions of dollars to make this a seemingly fake festival that didn't actually happen. Had all these amazing artists and had all these amazing models promoting it and stuff, and it just ended up being bullshit. Thousands of people spent thousands of dollars to go out to the Bahamas. They got stranded in the mud for 24 hours. Tons of people didn't make money. The stage designers and the locals who helped build, like a lot of that didn't get paid. This is a huge clusterfuck. There's 2 documentaries about it that I definitely recommend people watch.
Both are good.
They're both really good. But I mean, God, I could talk about that shit forever because there's just so many like different angles. It's so fascinating to a lot of people too. But it's it spawned like this sort of spoof community where people were making these fake events for it because it was such a disaster, and there were so many memes, and people were actually finding joy in the failure of it because it was sort of like seeing this douchebag community kind of getting their just desserts.
Right. Schadenfreude.
Yeah, exactly.
Serious.
I love that
Schadenfreude.
word, but I never know how to pronounce it properly.
I had to practice it a couple times. Yeah.
So yeah, I saw this one in Detroit that was supposed to be like a weekend long like mock festival, which was supposed to be sort of like Night of the Living Dead, where it was just like people fighting. It was just a reenactment of the actual Fyre Festival. And I don't know if that was fake or if it just got shut down, but either way, it's not happening now. But the response to that alone was huge. Everyone was like, oh my God, I want to fly out to Detroit to go see this. And then somebody put up a fake one that was like, we're going to do this on Alcatraz. And then that didn't happen. And I think there was like another one in LA that had popped up that was supposed to be just like a pop-up thing where you could go and take photos with like Ja Rule, like a cardboard cutout or whatever. And then that was fake too. And I was like, you guys are getting tons of press release on these fake events. People are finding this hilarious and it's like a great idea. I was like,
and lots of interest.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna actually do this. What's wrong with you people? You're losing out on this great opportunity. And I think maybe it's just because the people who came up with that funny idea just didn't really have experience in throwing events.
They probably weren't even an event.
Yeah, they probably were just like, this is funny. I'm going to make like a little thing about it. Yeah. And then it got exposure and blew up as basically memes do. But yeah, I was like, screw that. I'm a goofball and I've got money to invest right now, you know, and I'm not really working at the time I kind of am, but you know, DJ stuff and DJing for weddings and whatnot. But yeah, I got free time to do it. So fucking A, why not? If I lose some money, at least I could say like I tried to pull this goofy shit off, and people that did show up had fun. Whatever.
That's the best part. Is if it's a complete failure, it will be no worse than the actual.
Exactly. Like some people are like, I'm sure some people are joking, but other people are like, if this isn't a complete disaster, I will be disappointed.
Right. Yeah. So you're gonna have cheese sandwiches, cardboard cutout of Ja Rule. And,
I'm not going to get Ja Rule. I was thinking about it. So originally my plan was to get a life-size cardboard cutout of Kendall Jenner because she was kind of in the controversy because she got apparently $250,000 to make one post about Fyre Festival. Right. She's like I think she's the second most powerful Instagram influencer.
Amazing that none of them are on the hook, by the way. They just
I know. Yeah, well, because they were just the advertiser for it. So yeah, Kendall Jenner is second only to, I think, Kylie Jenner. So I was going to get a cardboard cutout of her, but the company that I got to send me the cardboard cutout is like, we don't want to do this. We don't want to get sued. It's like we're profiting off of somebody's copyrighted images. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, but whatever. So I got to find another company. But then it made me think, I was like, who really gives a shit about Kendall Jenner anyways? Like the main star of both of those documentaries is Andy King, the guy. For any of you who've seen it, or if you haven't seen it, there's a guy, I don't want to ruin it for any of you who haven't seen it, but the guy who goes to get the water, if you know that story, you know the story, but he's a meme now, and everybody loves this guy because he's like the ride or die homie, basically. He was
willing to suck a guy's dick to
get the water. I didn't want to ruin the but yeah, he was
spoiler alert.
Yeah, he was willing to go and give head to some guy to release all the water for all these kids. So people were just like, yeah, that's like the ride or die homie for life. So I'm gonna try to get cardboard cutouts of his head.
I can help you by the way.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
I'm not like I don't have like some connect with a cardboard cutout manufacturer, but I kind of know how to like we could do that for relatively cheap.
Do it on our own.
Yeah,
that'd be cool. Yeah, I'm thinking about just doing that. Get
it printed and then just kind of adhesive.
Glue it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I might do that instead because I was like, you know what? All the major players in this scheme, they're kind of dicks, and I was like, I want this to be a fun event where people are there happy. Like, nope. If anyone's taking a picture with Ja Rule, it's going to be to make fun of him. It's going to be like, hey, look, here's my arm around Ja Rule. Look at this fucking asshole. Right. But if somebody has their arm around like Andy King, they'll be like, look, this is fucking the guy. This is like the hero. And they're going to be more excited.
I like that.
Yeah, I want it to be a little bit more fun. Yeah. Not really like the negative energy. If I have pictures of Billy McFarland, the guy who threw the whole thing and screwed everybody over, it's going to bring like negative energy to the event.
Yeah.
I don't really want
There's been enough negativity. I mean, once you watch the documentaries, you really start to, especially the Netflix one, you really start to feel bad for the locals and everybody involved and all the people that lost money. And it's just, The whole thing was fucking gnarly.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, I would like people to donate to the GoFundMe. I have a link on the Facebook page where you could donate. People are like, dude, you should give like a portion of your profits. So I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to make money on this. I'm like, I'm spending so much money to make this happen. DNA Lounge, to rent out the main room, costs money. You know, I'm thinking about getting this Blink-182 cover band, which I'm going to have to fly them all from LA. And it's like, that's not going to be a huge draw, but it's going to be funny, and it's going to be like, no one's going to come to the event just because a Blink-182 cover band is playing, but it does add something that me personally would find hilarious. And that wasn't even my idea either. That was like somebody commented on a Facebook post. I was like, you should get a Blink-182 cover band. And I was like, that's fucking brilliant. I think I'm going to do it. But that's like another like 2.5 to $3 grand that I'm going to have to spend.
Yeah.
That's money out of my pocket.
Right.
But it's just to make the event more fun. So if I could donate more money to the people of Exuma, I totally would. But in my opinion, if everybody just gave like $5 to that GoFundMe, it would go so much further than me giving like 10% of supposed profits that I may or may not get.
Right.
You know,
the
like,
level of profit on events
it's like
is marginal for the most part.
If I give a portion of my profits, I might be giving a couple $100 that we don't even know is going to go to the right people.
Yeah.
But if each person donates a few dollars in the GoFundMe, that's going to go so much further.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Right. I don't think there's anything bad about poking fun at some people's misery. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, so I actually got interviewed by the San Francisco Chronicle, and that was one of their questions. It was like, how do you feel about kind of making this sort of mock event where it's people did suffer financially? And I was like, yeah, that part definitely sucks. You know, there's people who are being exploited in the Exumas, and that's fucked up. But I'm really glad that the GoFundMe is kind of taking that action and helping getting them paid and sorting people out. Other than that, I have no problem making fun of rich millennials. I could give a shit. You know, it's like, boo-hoo, 24 hours. You took a couple of days off of work. This festival you thought that was going to be amazing ends up sucking. I mean, I hate to say it, but if you're going to spend $3 grand to see Blink-182 and Ja Rule,
you kind of had it coming to you.
Yeah, it's like some comedian in one of the documentaries said like the same thing. It's like, I mean, come on. And plus, like, those people got refunded. Like, everybody who bought a ticket, they got their money back.
Did they actually?
I think they did. Yeah. I don't know for sure, but
there was a lot of lawsuits.
And the other people who got fucked over are venture capitalists. Why do I give a shit about venture capitalists? It's like, oh, you guys lost $500,000. That's a drop in the bucket to you guys.
Out
and
of millions. Or billions,
and you have $100 million class action lawsuit out right now, which is probably going to end in your favor. Might not, but who gives a shit? Fuck you. You're a venture capitalist.
Right. And somebody's already, I mean, that's kind of that's what you do as a venture capitalist. You take these risks on things. And, you know, you got to do the due diligence if you're going to hand over that kind of money. And I mean, you know, just like they said in the documentary, if a wedding planner could have told you that this event wouldn't
I remember that part.
Out, you know? It's like,
totally. All these people all these companies that are worth millions and billions were able to let one person scam them. It just, and all these kids that were going there were able to let this one Instagram account fool you into thinking this was going to be this amazing thing. It's like, it just goes to show how easily manipulated we are, even though we're growing up in a society where, you know, we question everything on the internet now, because I never know what's real. I'm like, everything's could be fake. Things look real as fuck with CGI and everything. And people can just fool you really easily online. Yeah. Even though we are really skeptical in our nature, we're still so easily fooled.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Especially when it's something that you want to believe is true.
Yeah. And it kind of sucks because then we go through life not trusting people. It's like, that goes back to the disconnect and the introvert thing that we're dealing with now with our society. It creates anxiety and depression and all that shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
We don't know what to believe anymore. So how are we going to believe the stranger who approaches us in public? Like, how do we know they're not trying to sell us something? How do we know they're not trying to scam us?
Yeah.
Because every fucking day we go online and we don't know what's real and what's not.
I think this is going to be a much bigger thing than even the festival debacle was. I think this is a lesson in, you know, social media. It's a lesson in, you know, who you trust and how, you know, just like what you believe, like you're saying, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a big deal. And, you know, things are changing in a very real way with the whole, like, you know, hashtag ad. And you've got to, I mean, it was right around the time that was coming to be on Instagram, where you have to, if you're a celebrity and you promo fucking whatever energy drink, like, you have to put hashtag ad. And some people are still not doing it, getting away with it. But, I think this is, it's going to get a lot more real very soon,
It just sucks that we have to question everything so much. I mean, in a way it's good because we should all kind of be on our toes, but it's also creates like a loss of innocence. When you're a child, the world is beautiful and you don't really see fault in things. But now we're sort of forced to be like, no, things are fucked up. Right. And it's like, that's a shitty way to grow up.
People are out there trying to take advantage of you.
Yeah. I mean, it's a harsh reality and it's necessary, but it just fucking sucks. Like, I remember being out until after dark when I was a little kid, and I'd be out in the summer all day. I'd be like fucking 11 years old, and 10 in the morning I'd fucking leave, and I would go play baseball or football or whatever, and I'd have like $4 and I'd go to the fucking liquor store and get some candy or whatever. But I wouldn't come home until like 10, 11 at night. I didn't have a cell phone. There was no communication with my parents or anything.
Maybe check your messages on the tape recorder at home and see if any friends wanted to hang out or, I
was already with my friends. I knew where we all were. We were all hanging out together. And granted, at the time I wasn't living in like a horribly shitty neighborhood. But even when I moved to fucking East Oakland, I was doing the same thing, So it's like, now things are way different, it just kind of sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of lost these days. I mean, I don't have kids, but I would imagine people that do have kids, and I was the same way. I would like ride my bike down to school, which wasn't far away. It was probably a mile and a half, but like I
still think it is safe to a certain degree. I don't think that the times have created much more danger. I think it's more that we're cautious of that much more now. The media scares the shit out of us because, the news, the more sensationalized they can make the news to scare the crap out of us, the more intrigued we are to watch it and the more advertising dollars. So the news is now just an advertising market to scare the crap out of us.
Fear-mongering.
Yeah, exactly. So, your kid's probably still going to be safe if he's out running around. Especially now, with everyone has a cell phone. If somebody sees a kid getting harassed, they're going to film the shit out of it. You know, so in one way, we're probably more safe than we are now, especially from fucking cops, because we could have accountability and just film them when they're doing fucked up shit. But we're just so afraid, and there's all these helicopter parents now that people don't even let their kids do that anymore. Right.
I think you're right. I think that the level of danger has not really increased. I would think it actually has probably decreased. But
I think there's studies that show that gun violence has gone down substantially.
Right. And like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like the amount of serial killers and serial rapists and that sort of thing you don't really hear about it anymore.
Yeah,
that was like in the 90s with like the Unabomber. He wasn't a serial killer per se,
Zodiac
killer. Yeah, that was kind of a thing that I think could only happen before a time of cell phones and the internet. I mean, if someone doesn't fucking answer your text, in a little bit of time, or there's just so many things, right? So like,
and there's cameras everywhere. Everything's a surveillance,
right? Everybody that you might text message, right? That's a lot of people for any given person. You have work that might be trying to get a hold of you. You know what I mean? So you might go like a day before people really start to wonder where the fuck you are.
I think a lot of these phones that kids have now have like a tracking thing on it, anyways, right?
Yeah.
So
kid versions of phones and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, I think
so. I don't know. It just goes back to, it just circles back to what we're saying about mainstream taking over everything. It's it's like it's turning us into these like fucking slaves.
Right.
Clear Channel taking over the radio market, all these news corporations being consolidated and only worrying about monetizing and scaring the crap out of us to keep us intrigued, to keep watching, because they say if it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah.
So if they're constantly filling us with this drama, then it's selling ads, you know what I mean? And they're making more money.
Being a self-proclaimed master troll, how do you?
Me or you?
No, you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know about master, but you're definitely a pro.
I definitely prod the bull.
Yeah, right. How do you deal with social? Because I mean, I of course, like being in the music scene, you kind of have to be a part of social media, right? You have to have some sort of presence, and especially just for networking, that sort of thing. I found myself like really kind of dialing back like the level of especially just like commenting on someone's post, or you'll see these things that pop up with like some clickbaity title, right? And then just fucking aids of comments, people just like lashing out at each other. And at some point I was just like, this is just, it's too much.
It's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming. It's not healthy. And I've just personally kind of dialed it back. I post funny stuff. Silly
different
things.
personality types too. What's this is going to sound weird, but what's your sign?
I'm a Virgo.
You're a Virgo.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about Virgo. Do you know what your Myers-Briggs is?
I don't.
No.
I know I'm a moon Pisces. I think?
Myers-Briggs is the personality, the 16 different personality traits.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know too much about that stuff, but I was curious about mine, and I'm ENTP, which is like the debater. So I'm constantly looking for. In my eyes, it's not an argument. In my eyes, it's a learning experience and it's a conversation. Right. But yes, to other people, they're like, your posts are fucking cancer. They're like, I can't even comment on some of the things that you say because it's going to open this floodgate of arguing. And to me, sure, some of it can get nasty, but I learn from that shit. And sometimes I post stuff that I don't even believe in. That's where the troll part comes in, is because I'm just trying to like get a response from people and a reaction.
That's like what a stand-up comic does.
Totally.
They'll say shit on stage that they don't actually mean, but it's there to get a rise out of people, get a laugh.
I think Anthony Jeselnik, have you heard of him?
No.
He's dark as fuck.
Really?
Like super sexist and racist and all that stuff, but it's so over the top that you can't take it serious. He's doing it on purpose because it's this fucked up character that he's created. And like, if you're really sensitive to stuff like that and you don't really realize that he's just doing that to kind of get a rise out of people, then you could easily fall for it and be like, this guy's a piece of shit. But he's doing it on purpose to raise awareness about that. Right. Like he had one joke where he was like, I was at a bar and I was talking to this girl and she tells me that she's like an astrophysicist. And I was really impressed, because most women can't pull off comedy like that. And it's like really fucked up, and the women in the crowd are like, what a piece of shit. But it's like, it's more like it's bringing awareness to sexism. You know, sure, it's presenting it in a super sexist way, but that's kind of how you can bring awareness. And sure, some people delete me. They're like, you're a scumbag, you're a misogynist and all this sort of stuff. And I don't think what I'm posting is that bad, but when it's in text and it's online and you don't really know me personally and you don't know the context, then I could see how that could be misinterpreted. But at the same time, that generates attention and it makes me more known. So that people are like, people that think that's funny are like, that's that Danny Delorean guy who's always joking and shit. I'm going to go see him DJ now. Right. You know, it's like, they might not even know what I spin and what I do music wise, but they're like, you're fucking funny online. So now I'm going to support you. So it's like, that's kind of weird how the music industry has kind of gone in that direction now, where you do need to be an online personality. And I found my way through trolling, because I'm just like a goofy person who doesn't take that much shit seriously. I mean, I do and I don't, but
it's an interesting time to be alive, for sure. So what do you have, not to segue too hard, what else do you have, you've got TurboDrive. You have anything other planned? Are you going to keep doing these events?
If Fyre does well and we get some more pre-sales are doing pretty good now, but we definitely haven't sold out yet. If we get a little bit closer to sellout tickets, then I would like to expand it, but I can't wait too long, because then the buzz of Fyre is going to die down and then people are going to move on to the next crazy thing. So I would like to maybe do a gig in LA or like Sacramento or Santa Cruz or some other city that has like a 400 person venue that they think people would like this. But if I wait too long, then people are just going to forget about it and move on to the next thing.
You mean actual, like another Fyre'd, like a different, yeah. I think you could probably milk it for a while.
Yeah, for sure. And then other people are like, hey, maybe your new thing could just do like spoof mock events, kind of like Beach Blanket Babylon does with their like live Broadway performance. Right. Where they just take topical humor and just run with it. But I don't know. I feel like I'm creative, but I don't really want that to be my legacy. You know, it's like Weird Al's cool and all, but I'm more into like the electronic music DJing stuff and throwing those sort of parties. Right. Like Synthwave is my thing that I'm into now, and I'm doing TurboDrive with Devin and Mikey, in fact 50 and Netic and all them. But yeah, that's where my passion is. So I don't really want to be known as I mean, hey, if it makes me money and I do good at it, then I guess I can, but it's not going to be where my passion lies. Yeah. You know?
It might be one of those things where if something, you probably don't want to sit around all day just thinking of funny mock events that you could, because I mean, it's like something pops up like this and you're like, it's too good to pass up. It's going to be fucking funny. It's going to be fun.
Well, at the end of the day, you're researching people that you don't like. Yeah, right. You know, because like to to learn more about Fyre'd, I'm like researching Ja Rule, I'm researching Billy McFarlane, I'm researching Kendall Jenner, and I'm like constantly trying to learn every aspect of these people to make fun of them. Right. But I don't fucking like them. So it's like I'm spending all this time researching these fucking people who are douchebags, and it's like it kind of weighs on you after a while.
It's self-inflicted toxicity.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it feels better. It feels cathartic to make fun of them afterwards, but leading up to that, and you're just sitting in your room researching these scumbags. Right. You're just like, ugh. That's why I can never be a news reporter, because you're just reporting every single day on the misery and like the shitty side of life. You know?
Yeah.
That's yeah, totally. That's why puppy videos and cat videos are popular online, because people need something like fuzzy and cute to counteract the bullshit.
Right.
So.
What is it that drew you to Synthwave, and like how is I feel bad because I haven't actually been to one. I also work on weekends, so it's difficult, but I definitely want to go. But like how is it different from traditional house music, or whatever, in like the dance nightclub structure? It's
actually not much different. People think that it's different because the imagery is so heavily 80s and cyberpunk. But I mean, there's so many elements of it that can draw you in. There's like the techno side, there's sort of like the new disco side, there's the house music side. I mean, even dubstep, there's a lot of similarities in it. Synthesizers are used in every single branch of electronic music. Right. It's just synthesizers are sort of like the background, where it's kind of like, I guess, sort of the repetitive melody, and it's more about the drums and the bass and all that sort of stuff. Whereas synthwave, it's more of sort of like a live performance to a certain degree. I mean, yeah, there's DJ nights as well, but it's more like somebody's playing a synthesizer live, and it's the main instrument of focus.
Yeah.
Like a band, the lead singer, he's the main point of focus, or the guitarist, or what have you. Synthwave, someone's playing a fucking synthesizer, and it's the main thing drawing you in. So the music is a little bit more intricate. So sometimes that works with a younger crowd, and sometimes it doesn't, because some of the younger crowds, they just like that heavy 4 on the floor, repetitive, just slam you in the face, sort of like techno rave music. And then when you have more intricate, sort of melodic sounding stuff, sometimes it kind of, turns them away. Right.
Well, and there might be a little bit of the nostalgia that flies over their head too, because there is a certain age bracket, I suppose, that, I mean, like vaporwave, and I think synthwave a little bit, really, I mean, its core is based off nostalgia.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of the newer stuff, it draws from that nostalgia factor, but it sounds so new. So yeah, it has that sort of retro feel, but it's almost like, I don't want to use the word cliche, because I don't think it's cliche. It takes itself very seriously, but it's inspired from that era. So it's its own new thing. It just takes inspiration from that. And I think people who are on the outside that don't really know think that it's full force 80s like resurgence, but it's not.
Right.
It's just kind of like we're taking that neon sort of aesthetic of that era and using that for like the visuals and stuff. But the music itself just sounds like this fresh new sound. But it's kind of like a double-edged sword, where some people are drawn into it because of that nostalgia, and other people are totally repelled by it because they're like, fuck the 80s. The 80s sucked. Like, not everybody thinks that. Other people are like, I love the 80s. But if you don't like the 80s, you're not going to give synthwave a chance.
Right. I eat that shit up. I love it. I like I used to go on Tumblr and just browse all those fucking like 80s like GIFs and stuff like that. It's just, I mean, I think for being an 80s baby, like it really fucking drives it home for me. But I think you're right. I think that like what it's doing is using techniques from the era of the 80s and maybe early 90s and sounds like, specific synthesizers, specific drum modules that had that kind of, super reverby sound or whatever, and then just making new music with that.
Yeah. Well, also the 80s was a technical, excuse me, I'm getting stuffy.
Yeah.
The 80s was a technological revolutionary era.
Right.
So there was all these new gadgets and shit coming
Digital
out.
synthesizers.
Yeah. I mean, we're in an era of technical peak right now. I mean, technology is every single aspect of our lives. So the 80s was sort of like a fantasy world of what technology could be. And we're starting to kind of live that now. It's like 3D printers and shit like that was imagined in the 80s. We're actually seeing it now.
Right.
So the stuff that we are seeing, it's like, oh, cool, this is what they envisioned it would be. And so it's like fantasy of the 80s that I don't know. It's goofy, but it's also very serious. It's like this weird combination of like taking goofiness seriously.
Yeah.
So.
It's like it's fun. It's nostalgic, but then it's also like they're not just like, oh, this is some like stupid thing. It's like that. No, this is my genre. This is like, and people are. I mean, I've found some vaporwave and synthwave tracks that I like legit fucking love. You know, and like new disco. There's a little bit of bleed over there.
Totally.
But yeah,
future funk.
Yeah, right. I made a new disco mix, and it is, I don't even really play new disco, but it's like it's gotten the most traction I think of any of the mixes I've ever done. Yeah, because it was kind of I called it like the Vice City new disco mix or something, and it was kind of chock full of that stuff, like anything from a Madonna remix that was done in new disco style to new stuff that was like just like you were saying, like literally new music, but just kind of had this vibe. And a lot of the times it wasn't even necessarily made with the same synthesizers or whatever, but it's almost like you can go into making that music with the vibe in mind, and the outcome is the same.
Well, that music in the 70s and 80s, the 80s may have started to change a bit because drum machines were introduced and stuff, but definitely in the 70s, musicians were writing their own songs. They were playing their own instruments. They had live drummers. It wasn't like sequenced drum machines and stuff. Right. But the 80s came along, and even that was revolutionary because electronic music was so new. Yeah. So it was sort of like the beginning of the electronic music era. It hadn't really been bastardized yet. So the 70s and 80s era, the resurgence that we're feeling now is calling back to an era where the music was a little bit more pure. You didn't have somebody like Taylor Swift where they had 2 or 3 different songwriters who are like 40-year-old guys making the music for them. You don't have like different instruments being played separately and then mixed later in the track. It's like one band in the studio making this together and trying it over and over and over until it works. There's just so many things about that era that was better, in my opinion, music-wise. Some people will argue, but now it's just so formulaic, and people don't really want to gamble on experimental shit anymore because they're like, look, we have a formula that we know works and is going to make us money. We're going to stick to that. But then it becomes played out, and that's why you don't really have timeless songs. A song will be old in 6 months because you've heard it a million times before, know, and I don't mean literally. I mean, I do mean literally. You've heard that specific song a million times before, but I mean, you've heard a million other different songs that sound just like that shit. You know? So it's just like nothing new.
There's a YouTube video that covers that topic where they take like, I think like 30 of some of the most recent country pop songs or whatever, radio songs, and they like overlay them and they switch them back to back, and it's like the same chords, the same key, the same vocal song structure, and you could literally just like, if you had them on a mixer, you could just slap back and forth. And it's
there's a lot of technology is a great thing. I love it to death. I'm addicted to fucking social media, unfortunately, but it can be detrimental in other ways too. Like you just look at turntablism, now with the DJ technology being so far advanced, the art of turntablism and scratching is kind of being lost because people aren't investing money into vinyl and techniques because it's fucking expensive when you could just get, a laptop that you already have for school or work and get Ableton, and a controller for like a couple $100. So in a way it is destroying industries. So yeah, I bitch about that shit, but I agree that it's necessary and technology is great. I mean, just look at fucking Uber and Lyft. We don't have to drunk drive, from far away distances or, leave the club early because the bus stop's running or whatever. So in some instances it's amazing, but it does suck that it's kind of a trade-off in that regard with the arts.
Yeah, I definitely think there is a bit of a decline in like the turntablism, that sort of. It's still out there, but it's definitely more like kind of underground. I think it's actually a pretty good time to be a musician right now, as far as like there's all these analog synthesizers coming back out. There's like they started making Technique 1200s again, from the factory, so you don't have to buy them.
It's a lot more easily accessible. So like some poor kid who 20 years ago had all these great ideas and could never afford the technology. Now they can make amazing beats and become a superstar.
Yeah, you'd have to pay a studio back in the day, of some fucking untold fortune just to make some EP or album that you don't know if it's going to do anything. That also brings another argument that people would say also is that now that it's so easily accessible, we're being overloaded with stuff, and now everybody can make music, and it's
hard to like find, you know, the good stuff through.
Right.
You have to dig way harder for music, and it's making people lazy. That's why they're like, yeah, sure, just feed me what you want, Spotify, feed me what you want,
Right.
Commercial radio, because it's so time consuming to dig for what's really good. Whereas before, you know, if you were Run DMC or whatever, you were spending every single dime that you had, and you didn't care if you were going to be poor for the rest of your life, because this was something that you had to do for your own sanity, and this was just your calling. Whereas now it's so much easier for people to access this technology that it's watering it down a little bit.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And you kind of need that struggle, and you need that that determination to kind of risk it all,
Right.
because then it's like ride or die. You know, I have to make this work.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like, oh, if you don't make this work, oh well, I lost a few $100s on
They
this
still
gear.
got some likes or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess it is. There's a different type of struggle now, right? Whereas like now it's like you release a song and it's just a wash in an ocean of other tracks. I heard a statistic the other day. I think that it's something like 1 million songs every week are uploaded to the internet
Jesus
or something.
Christ.
It's just insane. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's of course like the world's a big place, but you know that could be Middle Eastern music and whatever. But just an insane amount of stuff, and that's just music. It's not even like video and whatever else. You know, it's like just an unprecedented amount of content that we could potentially be digesting at any given moment.
That's
you know?
why everyone's desperately trying to stand out and be different. You got bands like Die Antwoord who are just like weird and wacky, and people are like, oh my God, they're so innovative and amazing. And like, yeah, they are, but it's like, part of me is like, are they just doing that because they need that sort of like attention, or is that really them? I think in their case, it's really them. I think they're authentic, but their music to me isn't really the greatest. Like, I think what really draws people to them is that crazy look.
Right.
Like, you know, we had that guy, Mark Rebier, I think that's how you pronounce his name, played here not too long ago. And he's like, we were talking about him earlier, he's a really authentic guy and a great musician. But that energy is different, and people.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what you need to do now. It sucks for people who are sort of introvert, like music geniuses, like Aphex Twin, for example. I mean, granted, Aphex Twin has amazing music videos, and that draws people in. But what about these music proteges that don't really have that public sort of like energy to draw people in? They just make amazing music. They're lost in a sea of Instagram influencers who can rack up those likes and rack up that attention. Then you've got fucking super watered down people like Drake selling out fucking stadiums.
Right.
You know?
It's you're right, and you get someone like Bonobo. I always use an example. Like I, found out about him a couple years back, and it was the thing where like I found out about him. I'd kind of heard his name floating around, and I finally was just like, man, let me check this out. And I go to his fucking Spotify or whatever, and it's like he's got just albums upon albums going all the way back to 2001, and it's like now he has surfaced, and it's all good stuff. That's the crazy part.
He was like on Ninja Tune, I think, in the beginning.
Right.
Always a great musician, but not very well known. Same with like DJ Crush and like all these other people on Ninja Tune and Warp. Great musicians, but not extremely well known outside of that small like community. So, but I mean, when it comes to commercial music, it's like you have to kind of appeal to the lowest common denominator. And I do kind of mean that to be insulting, but I also don't. It just means that you have to appeal to so many people to get the numbers up, which means you have to be safe. You have to cater to a mass audience. And that's why people that are into counterculture music don't resonate with it, because it's like, this music doesn't speak to me personally.
Yeah.
Whereas people that obsess over certain artists are like, this is directed at my personality and what I'm into. This speaks to me directly and my sort of sub-community of people. But if you're making music that you can play at high school and junior high dances, then you're catering to 13-year-olds, but you're also trying to cater to, a 35-year-old's wedding. So you're just like covering this broad spectrum of a demographic, and the music has to be watered down in order for it to cover that wide umbrella. I mean, and that's why mainstream music does so well, but the music is just kind of crappy.
Right. I think that, I've heard artists say this too, is the most difficult part is dumbing it down.
If you're a good musician, it's hard. I mean, look at the Black Eyed Peas. Their first album was fucking amazing. Right. And then, their music just turned fucking moronic, but they had a whole team to do that.
But in the meantime, they got more popular. That's that's a perfect case scenario.
Outkast too. I mean, I was the hugest Outkast fan, and then after Stankonia was okay, but everything after Stankonia to me was like, this is fucking horrible. Like, what is this shit? Yeah, I wasn't into it. It's like, I mean, the movie Idlewild came out, and like me being an uber Outkast fan, I was like, this is awesome. But I mean, at the same time, it just was like, just wasn't really my thing. I mean, granted, to Andre 3000's credit, he was trying to be like a little bit more on the experimental side and trying different things and being weird or whatever. But I don't know. Maybe that's just me being jaded because they turned into a group that I really felt resonated with me personally on a personal level to being more mass appeal. And I felt like I had lost that more personal connection with them. Yeah. So maybe that's just where I'm coming from. But
yeah, I saw them play I saw Big Boy DJ at 10:15.
He's a DJ now.
Well,
they're all fucking DJs now.
Yeah, they smelled
DJs.
Right. Yeah, they smelled the electronic wave and had to switch it up. But I mean, you're exactly right. Like it was him and 2 other guys on stage, and they're all just smoking joints. But it was like Big Boy. Couldn't really tell you what he was doing, but it was very clear that his buddy to the right of him was like doing all of the real legwork. Yeah. So it was kind of like, and I'm sure people had fun at that event, but I was just like, oh, this is dog shit. Like you're just
like, I love Erykah Badu, but she's a shitty DJ.
Yeah,
like,
right.
The guy from fucking Radiohead was like a DJ at one point, and like Shaquille O'Neal was like a DJ. Fucking Snoop Dogg. Paris Hilton, it's like all these people that goes back to the gear being accessible. It's like, granted, these people are rich and they could afford all the expensive gear, but I mean, let's be real. To them, they probably were like, well, now that the gear is super easy to run, because they're not learning how to mix on fucking turntables and shit. Right. They're getting the cheap gear and they're kind of like letting these programs mix for them, and they're probably getting people to feed them music to play. I doubt they have the time to dig for hours and hours and hours through crappy music to find the good songs.
Right.
Shaq
is hilarious. I mean, as cringy as it can be, I laugh every time because he's listening to he's playing the most like filthy fucking face melter like dubstep.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's like a rhythm DJ now.
Yeah.
But is he playing like the commercial stuff, or like do you think
he's playing the kind of the commercial stuff? I'm sure he like slips some other stuff in there. But from what I heard, it was definitely kind of
Dude, the video footage I've seen of Snoop Dogg playing, he's playing like fucking 99 Red Balloons and like Come On Eileen and like
what the fuck?
Yeah, like cheesy 80s wedding music. I was like, dude, this is fucking Snoop Dogg. Like, what are you doing, bro? Like, I don't expect you to play like EDM or anything, but I mean, play some fucking like house or hip hop music, play some like gangsta fucking rap or whatever.
Right.
Like,
I want Snoop Lion to come back. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
I fucking loved it.
Yeah, it was cool. I didn't really get a chance to listen to it. He was fucking hated for that shit for sure. People were saying that, like, what do you know about Rastafarianism? Didn't fucking the guy who gave him the name Snoop Lion like recant on it? Yeah, I think
that would be funny.
I think the guy who was like, I now don you Snoop Lion, like pulled back and was like
JK LOL.
Yeah, he was like, nah, you're actually just a corporate shill.
Yeah.
No, I got love for Snoop Dogg. I got no hate for Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, that's got to be a difficult part being a rapper, and I've seen a lot of people kind of struggle with it. Eminem being a prime case where like what you were making at this stage in your life early on when you're like you're going through all this like struggle and strife and drugs and gang violence and all that stuff, and then you get out of it and you're like you get successful and all of a sudden like what are you going to rap about now?
It's hard to reinvent yourself. Right? I mean, and that's another bad thing about going mainstream is like I've talked to a lot of artists about this, and some people choose to remain underground because they're like, dude, I can do whatever I want here, and I'm going to have a dedicated fan base for 20 years. Whereas if I go mainstream, I may have one solid year of being huge. I might headline a festival, and then I'm going to be forgotten, and I won't be able to really branch out into other ventures because people are going to typecast me as this one sound. Not only that, they're going to get bored of me. I mean, all of our legacy artists that we have now started 20 years ago, if not more, like fucking Beyonce and Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and all these people. I mean, sure, we have a few now that have kind of maintained longevity, like Taylor Swift and Justin Bieber, but it's a much smaller pool than people who started in generations before us because we just have short attention spans now. So we hear somebody like 6ix9ine or fucking Migos or whatever. Migos might have like a little bit more longevity, but some of these groups like fucking God, I'm even drawing a blank because they don't resonate with me anymore. Yeah, right. But like that dude who sings
Lil
that song,
Uzi and
like shit, those guys, Yachty, fucking
the
Young
rainbow
Thug,
haired rappers.
Yeah. they'll be around for a year, maybe 2, and then they're forgotten. So yeah, if they're not good with their money and they didn't invest and save those millions at the time, and they're living this flashy lifestyle, they're gonna be fucking broke, and they're gonna be Uber drivers in like a few years.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I can rant about this shit for fucking ever, man. But whereas when you're in the underground, you can kind of reinvent yourself and try different things. And if it's a failure, it's not like your whole world comes crashing down. Whereas when you're in the mainstream, if you make a flop album or it doesn't sell well, you're completely forgotten.
Right.
Look at DMX. He was like the biggest rapper in the world at one point, his first 2 albums, and maybe even his first 3. And then after that, he's like forgotten. And then he turns to drugs and shit because like he doesn't know how to handle the stress of not being really known or cared about anymore.
Right. Well, no, I mean, I would imagine he probably didn't save his money wisely and probably blew a bunch of it.
Yeah, because that's the nature of the beast. You know, you have to have all the flashy cars and all the drugs and women and fucking shoes and chains and dinners.
Full, what's that dude with the fucking white dude with the big fucking glasses and the Bugattis and shit? What was his name?
Post Malone?
No, he was really good at playing the fucking keys. What's his fucking name?
Elton John?
No, like the rapper dude. He wasn't a rapper, but he would make everyone that's watching this is probably fucking screaming at me right now.
Was he like a producer?
Yeah, he was a producer. He did a bunch of stuff for like Eminem and Dr. Dre and all this stuff. And
Rick Rubin?
No, he's the fucking white dude with like the big fucking aviators, and he bought like Bugattis and had a ton of cocaine.
And so what happened to him?
He fucking just kind of. He did way too much blow and spent way too much money on Bugattis, and then all that shit got like reclaimed. He had to sell his houses, and he kind of had to like restart.
Interesting. Apparently he was like a hip hop producer.
Yeah, and he's kind of come back. Now he's like kind of fat now, but probably not doing cocaine as much.
Yeah. We laugh at that. Sorry, that's not. We didn't mean to fat shame.
No. I mean, it's what happens when you live on cocaine and then you
totally.
Your
and then you go to
out of whack.
Eating junk food and stuff.
Yeah, right. Fuck, this is gonna kill me. I can't remember his name, but anyway, yeah. I feel like it's a telltale thing. People should just be cautious. I've heard that like a lot of sports, like athletes now are doing, like talking to people that how to save their money and invest it and that sort of thing. And
there's a documentary, smart. I think it's called Broke. Do you know ESPN 30 for 30? They do these like little documentaries.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
There's one, I believe it's called Broke, where it just talks about all these athletes who were worth millions that are now like bankrupt. Right. It's just really interesting because they all felt obligated to buy every family member a home and shit, and like, or they get an injury, they think like, oh, I've made it, I'm going to be rich from now on. And it's like, when you grow up in the hood, you can either go one of 2 paths. You can either come into money. There's one of 2 paths when you come into money when you grow up in the hood. You can either be like, oh, well, I grew up broke, so now I'm going to fucking live the life I've always wanted to live, and I'm going to go overboard. I've never been able to have this shit before. Or you can be like, I'm used to not having shit. I can live not having shit. So you can make all this money and be living off of beans and rice. That's why sometimes you'll meet these people who are like multimillionaires and you're like, holy shit, you're a multimillionaire? You look like a fucking hobo.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they're like eating, like fucking Trump, doesn't he eat at like McDonald's like once a week or some shit? It's
probably.
Like, yeah, he just lives like, I mean, I don't think he ever was broke, but that's just an example.
Yeah, right.
I went to church with this dude who was like a millionaire, and he was driving like a fucking bucket.
Right. That's like the Bill Gates, right? Or like still drives his fucking 92 Toyota fucking pickup or something.
That's awesome. That's cool. I like that shit.
Yeah, I would do the same thing. I mean, if I came across a bunch of money, like I have my.
We say that now, but
well, I'm a car guy, so I guess cars specifically, I would for sure like. Why would I sell my? I love Subarus, and I have my like 2004 Subaru, original owner. I've done everything to it, so it's like
it's your baby.
Yeah, and it's like what I would probably do is like get something new that I could daily, and then swap the engine in that thing and just turn it into a fucking track beast or some insane thing, But
you wouldn't turn into like. Look at me with all this money and chains and
no, I don't think so. But I think it might be like maybe it's an age thing too, right? Like maybe if that happens to you at like 24, 25, maybe even 26,
That's a good point. Yeah, when your self-esteem is a lot lower.
Right. Yeah. Versus when you're older, you have a little bit more like world experience, and you're like, you know what, like maybe
Yeah.
Because you just you see things as you get older, and you can't help but learn from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and when you're young, you just don't know how to spend money. I mean, everything we do when we're young is to try to impress other people.
Right. Everything, pretty much. I feel like I really didn't have a grasp on much of anything, especially like how I don't know. I felt like once I hit 30, maybe 32, like I really started to feel like I could communicate with people that were of any age. I could communicate with dudes that were like 80 and have like fucking just like straight up conversations. There was not like,
and be honest and speak your mind.
Exactly right. Or I could talk to a 13-year-old, or a fucking 4-year-old.
Yeah.
Because I like to talk to people that, regardless of how old you are, even like kids. Like I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to baby you. I'm going to talk to you like a fucking human.
Yeah, and see where their mind is at.
And I think that they appreciate that. And same with like older people. If you're like, some fucking 80-year-old person, like the last thing you want is someone to be like, oh, okay,
like talking to you like you're fucking, totally. How are you doing today? It's like, I'm not fucking deaf or stupid.
Yeah, right. Well, anyway, what do we? We're at hour 20. You got anything else we'll talk about, or?
Yeah. So I guess we covered Fyre'd. Fyre'd Festival is happening at DNA Lounge on April 5th. It's going to be a spoof event. Come through, $20. It should be a lot of fun. I got the ghetto cheese sandwiches that I'm giving out for free and salad and stuff.
I might have to take this night off.
Yeah, come through, man. I'll guest list you. Just let me know.
Sick.
I bought the FEMA tent for the photo booth, and I got an air mattress in there and like a couple of like folding chairs. So that's going to be like our photo booth area. So you can take a photo with your little cheese sandwich in the booth. That fucking thing cost me like $320. And it came in the mail the other day, and it's just fucking PVC pipe and like a white tarp. And I'm like, if I had the design for this, I could have just made this shit myself. But whatever, I spent the money on it just to make it easy, because it had to be authentically like that specific tent. So I got that
especially for this purpose. If you were just buying a tent, you'd be like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, exactly. It's got to look exactly like that iconic dome FEMA tent.
Right.
Hopefully I'll get this Blink-182 cover band, and there's a DJ in Fresno named Fyre, F-Y-R.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, and he's like a house DJ too. I don't know anything about this guy, but that was another comment that somebody made on the post. Is like, you should get DJ Fyre.
He just won the lottery with that name.
Yeah, totally. If you want to call it a lottery, because he might not want to be known for that shit. But but yeah, so I'm reaching out to him. Maybe he'll play, maybe he won't. We'll see. But that's in the works as well. And if we get enough pre-sales, we'll open up other rooms and it'll get bigger. Yep. Maybe I'll make some t-shirts made. Who knows? But TurboDrive is also a really fun synthwave thing that we're doing.
What night is that?
It varies. It just depends on who's on tour.
Okay.
So it's not like a consistent night, but we do have 3 of them coming up in March. And then I think April we're going to take the month off. Maybe we might do just like a DJ only event. But are
those on like Thursday nights, or
so
it's
they
always
used to
Friday, Saturday?
It used to just be whenever. It was like whenever somebody's going on tour, we would grab them when we can. So sometimes we would get like a Wednesday night.
See, that would be easier for me to attend.
Yeah, but it sucked for us because nobody would show up. San Francisco and the Bay Area is like so hard to live in right now that people aren't really going out during the week as much anymore. Right. People are just working themselves to death.
It's fucked up because we're not in a recession anymore.
Yeah.
But like now it's just so expensive to fucking live.
Yeah, totally. So we're doing Fridays and Saturdays now. We decided we're not going to do anything else because they were just kind of killing us. But yeah, it's mostly live music. So we've got like Laser Punk, if any Synthwave people are out there. Laser Punk's a pretty big name that we have coming. Shredder 1984 is also coming. Street Cleaner. Future Holotape, I believe, is another one. I think Mega Hit is coming out, and that's all I can remember right now. But yeah, we have like 2 headliners on each show, and we have 3 next month. So
sick.
So yeah, we should have a few hundred people for each one.
That's fucking dope. I can't wait. I'm definitely gonna come out.
Yeah, man. Let me know, man. Anytime you want to come through, I'll guest list you.
Nice. Well, shit, man. Thanks for coming on.
No doubt, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it. It's been too long. We gotta just chill.
Every time we run into each other, we end up just fucking like yapping about a bunch of shit, good and bad, Yeah,
right. Yeah. We'll have to get Jason Battle out here too.
Yeah,
I think he's watching tonight.
Cool. Our homie that introduced us for sure.
Yeah. So I got to thank Gina, Rhea, Leah, and JoJo for letting us host here at Halcyon, one of San Francisco's greatest nightclubs. And this is the Voice of Electronic Music, episode 13 with Danny Delorean. And you got social or anything you want to plug?
Yeah, Danny Delorean Music on Instagram, I think. Facebook is where I do all my ranting and bitching and shit. So if you have a very weak, how do I put this lightly? If you're
easily triggered,
if you're easily, I don't even think what I say is really that bad.
No,
but
it's not.
I've never been blocked by Facebook or put in Facebook jail. But anyways, if you have a dark sense of humor, then you'll love the shit that I fucking post. Yeah. If you're a little bit more on the sensitive side, you may not like it.
Yeah, roll the dice.
Yeah, give it a shot. Look me up on Facebook.
Yeah. And you can find the Voice of Electronic Music podcast on pretty much every major platform. We're on Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Mixcloud, YouTube. We're working on. I've been doing Periscope, but obviously this one failed. I had some issues, so we're still kind of sorting that out. But anyway, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.
Peace.